You don't want tools. You want it gone, right now. The tightening in your chest, the thought that arrived before you could name it. The quiet alarm that says, something is wrong and it needs to stop before it spreads. That's not a request for information. That's a fire drill. And when that moment hits, the mind does something predictable. It scans, it searches, it runs through every option that might give you the upper hand before the feeling gains ground. Breathe correctly. Think clearly. Calm down. Focus. Stop this before it becomes something bigger. That sequence happens fast. Most people don't notice they're running it. You probably have it memorized. Here's what that sequence looks like from the outside. A sensation arrives. Your chest, your throat, your stomach. Somewhere in the body, something activates. The mind reads that activation and assigns a label. Danger. Not always in words, sometimes just in urgency. And urgency has one directive. Resolve this now. So you move toward resolution. You try to slow the breath. You try to redirect the thought. You try to apply pressure to the feeling and push it back below the surface. And sometimes it works. For a moment. But then it comes back. Or it gets louder. Or you start monitoring yourself to see if it's still there. And the monitoring itself becomes its own activation. What if stopping it is the reason it stays? There's something worth looking at here. And it has nothing to do with your breathing technique. When the nervous system detects urgency, real urgency, the kind that feels like you must act immediately, it reads that as confirmation of threat. Not because something dangerous is happening, because the urgency itself looks like danger. You are trying to stop anxiety. The attempt to stop it registers as alarm. The alarm amplifies the anxiety. You try harder to stop it. The loop isn't a failure. Oh, it's a very efficient system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Sensation appears. Mind labels it danger. Urgency rises. Control attempt activates. Nervous system reads the attempt as threat. Alarm increases. Sensation intensifies. Loop repeats. You are not stuck because you're doing it wrong. You are reacting, not failing. Let's look at what that control attempt is actually doing. When the spike hits, the instinct is to treat it like an intruder, something that arrived without permission and needs to be removed before it causes damage. So the mind goes on patrol. It monitors breathing. It checks heart rate. It scans for signs that things are stabilizing or getting worse. It runs calculations. It compares this moment to other moments. It tries to determine, how bad is this, and how long will it last? Think of it like a security guard who hasn't slept in 10 years. He's stationed at the door of your nervous system, and he's terrified of missing the one real threat among all the false alarms. So he screams at every shadow, every flicker of uncertainty, every sensation that arrives unannounced. He's not malfunctioning, he's overperforming, and when you try to silence him through sheer force, when you tell him to shut up, calm down, stop reacting, he doesn't feel safer. He screams louder, because now even the person he's protecting is threatening him. This is what hypervigilance looks like from the inside. Not panic, not paralysis, just constant quiet monitoring. And the monitoring has a purpose. It keeps you prepared. It tells you something important is happening, and you should not look away. The question isn't whether you can stop monitoring. The question is what the monitoring is protecting. Here is where it gets precise. Most people who experience anxiety spikes don't actually fear the sensation itself. They fear what it means. If this continues, I won't be able to function. If someone notices, they'll see something I can't control. If I don't manage this correctly, it will expose something I've been working to keep contained. The anxiety is not the threat. What the anxiety might reveal, that's what the urgency is protecting against. And so the control loop becomes identity. I handle things. I stay composed. I'm proactive, not overwhelmed. Those statements aren't lies. They are shields, and shields work. until the weight of maintaining them becomes its own form of activation. At some point, you stopped saying, "My mind is bracing," and started saying, "I am an anxious person." You framed your own biology as the enemy. You decided that your lack of calm was a lack of discipline, that if you were just stronger, more prepared, more mindful, your mind wouldn't do this to you. But your mind isn't broken. It's using an old map for new territory. And it's applying emergency measures to everyday life because it hasn't learned to distinguish between a looming deadline and a predator in the dark. It chose vigilance over ease. It traded your peace for a sense of readiness. And while that feels like a cage right now, the intent behind it matters. Your system is not trying to sabotage you. It is trying to ensure you survive. Every human nervous system was built around one priority: survive. Not comfort, not peace, survival. And survival, for most of human history, required rapid threat detection, rapid mobilization, rapid resolution. Sit with uncertainty, and you might die. Move fast, remove the threat, restore safety. Anxiety is that system activating in a context where the threat is not physical, where rapid resolution is not available, where the mobilization has nowhere to go. It is intensity without clear direction. That doesn't make it comfortable, but it makes it comprehensible. You are not experiencing a malfunction. You are experiencing a system that prioritizes alarm over ease, because for a very long time, that was the correct trade-off. Protection can look like personality, the vigilance, the need to stay composed, the hyper-awareness of internal state. These are not character flaws. They are protective structures that formed around something that once needed protecting. Here is the part that changes things. The urgency to stop anxiety is not separate from anxiety. It is the final link in the loop. Not the breathing, not the thought, not the sensation. The urgency itself, the pressure you apply to make it stop. That pressure is the system's confirmation that something threatening is present, which means the loop doesn't begin with the chest tightening. It begins the moment you decide the chest tightening must be eliminated immediately. You are not weak for wanting it gone. That impulse makes complete sense. But the wanting it gone, with that particular speed, is that particular desperation. That is the signal the nervous system is reading as threat. You are not broken. You are braced. And bracing is a posture, not a personality. The shift doesn't come from better control. It comes from becoming the observer instead of the commander. When you stop fighting the signal, when you look at the rising pressure and think, "There's that protection again. My mind is trying to brace me for something." Something in the loop loosens. Yet not because the feeling disappears, but because you stop providing the one thing the monitoring system was looking for: confirmation that the danger is real. The alarm is still sounding, but you're no longer pulling the batteries out in a panic. You're standing in the room, listening and slowly recognizing there's no fire, just the sound of the alarm, and your own hands reaching for something to fix. What happens when you let those hands rest? The next time the spike arrives, there is nothing to fix, not because fixing is wrong, but because the fixing is part of what keeps the loop moving. What is actually available, if you choose to notice it, is a small pause, not a technique, not a correction, just a moment where you observe the urgency without immediately acting on it. The sensation is present. The urge to stop it arrives. And for 10 seconds you don't. Not because you've stopped caring whether it resolves, but because you've noticed something. Yet the urgency is not evidence of danger. It is the system asking if you'll confirm the danger by responding as though it's real. What happens when you stop fighting for 10 seconds is not that the anxiety disappears. What happens is that you stop adding fuel. And that is not a cure. It is just clarity. Quiet. Grounded. Enough. You are reacting. You are not failing. The pattern is not you. It is just something your mind learned to do to keep you here. And you are still here.